Welcome to the League of Women Voters, Greater Rockford. I am Joy Jordan, member of the Greater Rockford chapter and the moderator for today's forum. The League encourages informed and active participation in government and works to influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League is a nonpartisan volunteer organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates for elected office. Our goal today is to provide a virtual forum that gives the candidates an opportunity to share with you their positions on key topics. The views expressed by these candidates are their own, not the views of the League. The questions asked today have been previously submitted and reviewed for clarity and appropriateness to the forum today. This is not a debate. There is no rebuttal. The candidates will be presenting a 2-minute opening statement, given 2 minutes to respond to questions, and a 2-minute closing statement. The opening statements will be by alphabetical order, closing reverse alphabetical order. The responses of the candidates are being timed, and they will receive a notice of 30 seconds left on their response time and must stop after completing their sentence when their time has expired. This session is being recorded. It is copyrighted by and is the property of the League of Women Voters, Greater Rockford. Candidates, at this time, please unmute your microphones and start your video.
Sorry, but I cannot start my video. I think it's paused. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Okay. Candidates participating in this forum today are seeking election to the office of County Board Chairman. They are Joseph Chiarelli and Burt Gerl. At this time, we will start with opening statements. And again, this is by alphabetical order. So, Mr. Chiarelli, it is your turn to provide us with a 2-minute opening statement. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you. I appreciate this opportunity to be on this forum this afternoon. And I really appreciate this in this hard times of COVID and meeting in person. So thank you. So my name is Joe Chiarelli. I am a candidate for Winnebago County Board Chairman. I currently serve as the City of Rockford's 14th Ward Alderman for the past 7.5 years. It's been my honor and privilege to serve the citizens of our community in that capacity. I also serve as the chairman of the Codes and Regulations Committee in the City of Rockford. But more importantly to me is my capacity as a husband. I've been married for 32 years to my wife, Connie. We have 2 beautiful children, my son, Vince, and my daughter, Claudia. And I have 1 beautiful grandson who's 4 years old. His name is Joseph, and I adore him dearly. Going forward, having said that about my family, in my private life, I'm a business owner in the local community here for several years. I am a teacher and a trainer in my business as a tailor. I created a curriculum which teaches displaced workers in the tailoring trade throughout the country. I have partnered with Workforce Connections in the past in Rock Valley College in training displaced workers, and it's a real joy to me to pass that trade on. I've also been previously an Illinois licensed real estate broker in this community, developed several properties and working in the real estate business and helping businesses open in this community. So it's been a real joy for me to do that also going forward. The reason I'm running for County Board Chairman is, honestly, we can do so much better as a community. We have lost our identity in this community, and I really believe my skills and my experiences in the private sector and in the public sector will bring a refreshing change to our community to have great opportunities for everyone in our community, working with the county board and working with the business sector and the private citizens to really understand the priorities that we need to get back to in our community. So I want to thank everyone for that.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Mr. Gerl, you have 2 minutes for an opening statement, please.
All right, thank you, Joy. Thank you to the League. Thanks for arranging this. As Mr. Chiarelli said, we are in difficult times here. I've been doing this Zoom thing since about the middle of March, so It's been a struggle to say the least, but looking forward to getting back to normal sometime soon. My name is Burt Gerl. I am the Democratic candidate for County Board Chairman. I have served since 2012 on the County Board. I sit on the Finance, on the Economic Development, and also on the Public Works committees. Throughout my tenure on the County Board, there's many things that I'm proud of. We have brought in thousands of jobs with Myers, Costco, the Reclaiming First initiative with the Rockford Park District, also our combination and coordination efforts out at the Rockford Airport. We're actually seeing that our investments come to fruition out there, so it's a really a good thing to see that. The Baxter I-90 corridor, we're seeing that develop at a great pace out there. It could be quicker, but with the times that we had, we're proud of where it's at. Also, another thing that I'm really proud of is our mental health tax that was passed in March. I'm looking forward to working with the Mental Health Board, coming up with new ideas on how we can accumulate and build up a rapport with our law enforcement so we can get certified health professionals to respond to certain calls that the police are going to and try to de-escalate some tensions and actually get people help immediately when they need it. Another thing that I'm, really looking forward to is working with the landfill folks out there and actually turning that into a green center. It'll employ hundreds of people, be 1,000 jobs right off the beginning. So a lot of projects that we're working on with the County Board, and I'm excited to continue that partnership. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you, both of you, for your opening statements. We will now turn to our question segments, and I will start with you, Mr. Chiarelli, and then alternate. So the first question. Over the last year, the newspaper has had many articles about the county board and the chair of the board being less than functionally reasonable. What steps do you plan to take as chairman to mend the rifts in the board and create an actual board and their chair relationship that works for the county's good? Mr. Chiarelli, your response, please. Oh, you're muted. There you go. Now we can hear you.
Okay, I should know better. All these Zooms were on.
That's all right. Lots of technology here.
Thank you for that question. That's one of the primary reasons that people in this community have really lost faith in our government, because of these issues going on between the county board chairman and the county board. And it's something that we really need to work on. It's about relationships and about being connected. And my ability to restore these connections and relationships, I think, has been shown on the city council. We have done great work working together as a municipal unit, working towards our priorities and our goals. So that is going to be a priority for us, to restore those relationships with the county board chairman and with working with the county board. We really have to understand that the county board has ultimate authority about the direction of this county. So the county board chairman's ability to bring forward those ideas and those solutions from the community, from the business community, from the citizens, and be able to implement that with the county board. It's all about relationships, connectivity with all the elected officials in this community, and that has been totally disrupted currently, and that's one of the most primary reasons we have to restore that in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Gerl, your comments on this question?
Sure, thanks, Joy. Yeah, the last year has been difficult to say the least here at the county board. We have been faced with an ineffective chairman who has caused some division among other elected county board members. So we have been struggling through that. The recent court ruling, which just came out about the chairman's lawsuit, really solidified the board's involvement into setting the duties for the chairman and other administrative roles at the county. So the board was well within their right, just as we've said all along. And, I am on the minority. I'm not on the majority of the board. So the majority of the board is Republican. And if you want to, I guess, push fault, push blame, it's all of our faults and all of our blames. So we need better working relationships. I have been a bipartisan championed ever since being elected and prior to. I believe relationships are everything. Without those, you have no communication, you have no transparency. So my number one goal is to be transparent, to actually provide communication and key news, and when it has to be said to the public, what needs to be said. Not holding things back, not looking for the political sway. I will be a voice of the people, not just special groups or special interest groups or certain corporations, but I'll be a voice for the people. And that's really what the folks want to see right now, is them being represented. So I will be that representation. I think Mr. Chiarelli hits it right on the head, that we have had bad existing relationships inside the county with electeds, the sheriff, the chief judge, certain board members. So we need to bring that back around. There is this view of dysfunction, but it really has been exaggerated and in the news. And if you were a member or had been around the county board, as I have, you would see that we have been working towards the good. So appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments, both of you. Next question. The county sheriff's budget is set and monitored by the county board. An ongoing budget fight has occurred. How do you plan to provide adequate safety to the county, but also control the sheriff's budget? Mr. Gerl, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Joy. Yeah, the sheriff's budget has really been in the news since 2017, I believe it was, and that's when the county board came out and wanted to cut that budget by $6.2 million. During the finance committee that was brought up, I had fought and championed to try to save the sheriff's budget as much as I could. Unfortunately, through a few amendments that I pushed out at budget time, I was unable to get that done. The majority was definitely against the sheriff. So my view is to bring back that relationship with the sheriff. And as of this year, the fiscal year 2021, we're actually, if you look back to 2011, we're adding almost, $6 million to the sheriff's budget. So we're not defunding, we're actually pushing for more funding so the sheriff has the tools to do his job. So I am an advocate for the sheriff, public safety, but if you cannot control a budget, then we'll have to do something about that. So that's where the county board stands. You know, we're more than willing to work with any elected official, but if you consistently spend outside of your budget, then we have to make some changes. And the sheriff has been more than willing to work with the county board and make those changes. So I actually see that relationship improving. The sheriff will no longer have an attorney present when he's dealing with the county board, so that is good. If you want to have communication, it needs to be on both sides. So I'm looking forward to actually working with the sheriff. I believe that any elected official has to do their job, and they have to have the tools required to do that job, and that comes in the form of a budget. So there's really not too much that the board can do outside of setting the budget for the sheriff. So we need to work with the sheriffs. That way we can have public safety, people feel safe, we can attract businesses and homeowners to actually move here. So thank you.
Thank you for your response. Mr. Chiarelli, your response to this question, please.
Yeah, it's imperative that the county board and the county board chairman work with all the elected officials on their budget. The county board sets the budget relating to the amount of resources that the citizens provide us through their taxes. And working with the different elected officials, especially the county sheriff, to totally understand what the real reason behind the problem with his budget. Is it because they've been underfunding his budget, or is it because of overspending? And understanding that is really the basis of what you can set the budget on. Public safety is imperative in our community. That's one of the top priorities of government, is to provide public safety in order to drive economic development in this community and feeling safe, as Mr. Gerl said. He's absolutely right on that. But the relationship with the sheriff and all the other elected officials to really have a good understanding of the total dollars that are collected from our citizens. More importantly, what we have to focus on is growth in this community. We always are talking about cuts and lack of resources. We have to have the cuts in place, and we have to have those resources in place, but we have to really focus on growth in our community. and working with those elected officials on a long-term plan to go forward as far as growth is going to be imperative in our community. So I'm hoping is when we get into this position as county board chairman, with those relationships with the county board, to understand what the real problem is as far as either underfunding or overfunding that department is relationship and as balanced throughout all our budget process. So I look forward to working with the sheriff and the county board to coming up with a real solution to drive our economy forward and have a sustainable budget going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Third question. Mental health and domestic violence are ongoing issues in our community. What specific initiatives do you plan to support outside of more police action? Mr. Chiarelli, your response, please.
Yeah, right. Currently, the city of Rockford and the county are working on a co-responder program, which I think is going to be very beneficial in our policing of our community. The co-responder program basically allows certain resources to be dedicated for mental health services through the policing with the frontline workers as the police officers and fire department. So I think that's a very important point going forward, to direct resources to where it's needed during a specific incident that is called in from 911, to identify that immediately, what the problem is it related to mental health or domestic violence, and allocate those resources through a co-responder program. So that's one of the big things that we're working on. Also is through training for our first responders and understanding and identifying mental health issues up front as the call comes into 911, and having the ability to respond to those in a way that's prudent for the citizens, and identify what the safety needs are for our police officers and the community at large with those types of calls that come in. So there's a lot of good things going forward with the mental health ability for the attacks, to utilize those resources in the appropriate manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gerl, your response, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chiarelli hits it right on the head that we have to tackle this. The Mental Health Board is determined to work with all law enforcement agencies inside the county, not just the city of Rockford, but all the outlying areas outside of the city of Rockford. Domestic violence, drug abuse, if you look at those, they're all correlated back to mental health. So we have to tackle mental health, and we prefer to do it at a younger age. And currently right now in our county, there's really no spot for a 14-year-old or under child who is suffering with mental illness or having a mental health crisis to go and seek treatment. It's imperative that we set up those resources, the Mental Health Board, the county, the city, and all other outside agencies, to actually combat and have a positive effect on mental health, drug abuse, domestic violence, and other social issues that we face currently. Our generational poverty could be linked back to mental health. We can look at all kinds of sorts of different problems that we have, and they all go back to mental health. 1 in 5 people in the United States suffer from mental health problems. Our jail provides the #1 provider of mental health right now in the county is our Winnebago County Jail. 40% of the folks that visit our jail suffer from mental health and drug addiction related problems. So it's a problem that affects all of us. We need to work together. We need to have a regional approach. I'm proud of the Mental Health Board. We're going to dedicate $8 million this year into mental health and addiction services to actually get programs up and running that haven't been here before since Singer and Janet Waddles. So we're looking forward to working together. And Mr. Chiarelli's right. We all have to work together to make this a problem that goes away, hopefully very soon. Thank you.
Thank you both. Next question. You've already talked a little bit about economic development, but this question is asking for more specifics. So what specific plans do you have for economic development in Winnebago County? Mr. Gerl, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Joy. Economic development is huge. In the last 5 years, we put together a program for Baxter and I-90. We've seen Conway, Brenner Foods come in there, FedEx. We're working on other companies to come in there. So we're looking at a logistics corridor out there to kind of complement the airport. We're looking at actually growing the airport south of the airport to actually accommodate with Prime or Amazon Prime, UPS expansions. Another thing that has really been looked past is the west side of Rockford and the west side of the county. My plan is to take Springfield Avenue back in the early 2000s when Lowe's distribution came into town. We had a book about 1.5 inches thick on a guideline on how to develop that area, and it was put to the side. So I want to look at bringing development back to the west side, not just the east side where we've seen development continue along our northeast side, and Lowe's Park and McChesney is spurring, but we need to have development etched towards the west side, especially west of Kilburn Avenue. It seems like the west side has been forgotten about with the demise of Barbara Coleman and Rock Valley College pulling out of that. That was a detriment to our southwest side. So I want to work on actually developing the parts of the county that need to be developed, putting dollars into that, and working on a plan to actually bring in more businesses. It would have been great if Rockford or Winnebago County was a contender instead of DeKalb County for what they're getting. If we could have got that, it would have been huge up here. But we are continually going to seek better economic development. My plan is to hire an economic development director to actually work with the different boards around town. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chiarelli, your response, please.
Yeah, so directly impacting economic development is, first of all, you got to have an economic development strategy. It's been really lacking. It's been very stagnant in our community for the last several years. We've been actually reacting to developments coming to this community. We don't have a strategic plan to attract and retain in this community. We really need to reset our focus on the economic growth and economic development, the health of our community, as well as the resources dedicated to that economic strategy. So number one, we really haven't had a strategy in place going forward. Right now, they got the Chamber of Commerce and RADAC in the middle of a unification process, which is trying to figure out what they're really trying to truly attract and retain in our community. So I believe working together with R1PC, Region 1 Planning Council, the unification process with all the business community, we really have to get serious about a strategy. There's so many best practices out in this country right now on strategy, and we've really overlooked that. We have so much great opportunity with all the great minds in our community, but we don't even have the ability to have a structure in place to name our priorities and to be living and executing on those priorities. It's very passionate for me on this because we've missed so many opportunities than we can even imagine in this community just because we have not been prepared for the future. Right now, the green, clean, renewable energy sources that are out there and these plans, we haven't even implemented any of these. So we really have to have, one, an economic strategy. Two, we have to have the right partners in place. And we all have to be focused, measured, and balanced in how we approach economic development and growth in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question. Reports have been made that 14,000 tons of garbage are being dumped in our landfill from other municipalities. Is this good economic policy or ecological policy? What are the problems associated with this practice? Mr. Chiarelli, your response, please.
Yeah, the landfill and the capacity of the landfill is grave concern to me for the future. We have to put our garbage somewhere. The more important question is, what do we do with the garbage that is accumulating every day? There is no economic plan for this garbage other than burying it, and it's causing complete distress in the part of our county that is suffering because of the smells and the health concerns that they're having, real or perceived. We really have to narrow down on that. We need a working relationship with the landfill on a green, clean, renewable energy sourced plan and not just burying our garbage. We have to look into the future on that. Of course, they're taking garbage from other communities because it's tied to host fees, and they are generating about $6 million a year, I believe, or maybe less. But the potential for the generation of revenue is so much greater with green and clean energy sources. We really have to get back to basics on partnership with the landfill, address those concerns that are really impacting the neighborhoods and that part of our community that's suffering because of that. And I truly believe it's been ignored for all these years because of the revenue source from host fees. It's really not been addressed in the appropriate manner. But we have to, this ties back to economic development. What is our long-term strategy for economic development in this community related to garbage and how we handle garbage in our community? Do we just bury it, cover it, and forget about it, and people suffer the consequences from that, environmental concerns? Or are we going to get progressive and move towards the future? And I really think that's more important to us than today, what we do with it. We're never going to get rid of garbage. It's how we treat that garbage and how we turn that into a resource where we can return that land, heal the land, and heal the people that have been affected by these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gerl, your response?
Sure. Thanks, Joy. Yep. Mr. Chiarelli hits a few points right on the head there. The life spill of the landfill is about 12 years, maybe 13 at the most. We do accept trash from all over, especially the city of Rockford and suburbs there. It is an economic driver for the county and way of host fees, which we spend about 80% of those back into the city of Rockford. So we have to do something. The smells are outrageous. People that live by there tell us every day how bad it is, and not even by there. The wind's going right, you can smell it miles away. So we need to take a new approach on the way we take in trash. 80% of the plastics that are made out there, they cannot be recycled. They get buried. Food waste from restaurants get buried, and that's where you're getting the smells, creating methane. It was looked into a few years ago to actually take that methane and turn it into an energy source, but it was too costly and deemed dangerous. So what I want to do is actually use a process through chemistry and take that plastics, that trash, and turn it back into carbon black, which can be used to produce many different fuels and energy sources. It can be used to create new products that come from carbon. So it is a way to develop more jobs, take the trash out of the landfill, actually put a value back on the plastics, put a value on the trash, waste that we just rather bury. So my plan would create jobs, would take that trash out of the landfill and actually use it to a viable source. We've seen this throughout the world, especially in Europe. We see it out west, but yet here in Illinois and the Midwest, we're the last, it seems, to jump on board with certain things. So I will be that voice. I'll create that relationship. So I look forward to that, whether it's myself or Chiarelli. I still have 2 more years on the board, so I look forward to working with Joe if he's elected on that. So thank you.
Thank you. Last question. What is your position on the proposition to adopt county executive form of government? What is your explanation about what this really means to the voters and the actual functioning of the county board? Mr. Gerl, we'll start with you.
All right, thanks, Joy. Yeah, it was placed on the ballot. It is out there for the voters to decide, but they have to be educated on what the county executive form of government is versus the township form of government, which we currently operate under. 86 of the 101 counties currently operate under a township form of government. It actually puts the voice to the people. It is a grassroots movement of government versus the county executive form of government, which puts a elected administrator in charge of the county. That still has to work with the county board. So I believe, in my opinion and others' opinions, that it puts too much power in the hands of a few instead of the power into the hands of many. So I will not support it, but if the people of Winnebago County decide that's where they want to go, then that's what we'll do. But they need to be educated on the difference between township and executive form of government. So there is a huge difference there. It would not have changed anything in the past if we would have had this executive form of government versus the government that we have now. The county executor would still have to answer the county board. The county board would still have to advise and consent on any decisions made. So it really just adds another layer of government that is unneeded right now. Especially when the people have spoken and they want control of the government back. They don't want it in the hands of a few, they want it in their hands, and that's the hands of many. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chiarelli, your comment on this question, please.
So it's a really good question. You know, breaking this whole question down, it comes down to two things in my mind. The loss of control and the fear of the future. And when you have a county board that ultimately decides policy for this community, we really need to work on the board members and the policy and the direction that they want to move this community forward. As far as the day-to-day operations of having a professional staff, we have that in Rockford, and we have that in the county. When you have a professional staff that's running the daily operations and you have the county board and the city council, which are policymakers, we really need that division to be in place. We cannot have one person running the entire show, just like Mr. Gerl said, a checks and balances. So again, this goes back to, is it a fear of the future or is it a fear of the present that we have in this community? We're always trying to figure out who we are, what our structure is, and where we're going. So let's really try to identify this. The people want to vote for the executive form of government. They do have to be educated on that. But the system does work when you have the right people on the bus. You have the right representatives that are moving this community forward. We have to identify policymakers and day-to-day operational people, professional staff that runs this community on a daily basis. We have a labor-intensive organization that delivers services to our community every day, and we have policymakers. So right now, I believe truly that it's been a people problem and not a structural problem going forward. We will see what happens in the future. The people are going to vote on this, and either way it comes down to, whatever the vote is, we need the structure to be right when the county board works as policymakers and the city council, it does the same thing. Right now, it's a confused state of mind that we're in.
Thank you.
So we can be better at what we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our questions. At this point, we will begin, you will begin your closing statements. You have 2 minutes to provide us with whatever additional thoughts you have. And we'll start with you, Mr. Gerl, on your closing statements.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Joy, Linda, all you there at the league for putting this together. Appreciate it. Let me decline that call. Sorry. So yeah, my thoughts are, as I have been around for the last 8 years in county government, I have been to 800, 900 committee meetings, just about over 100 board meetings. I think I have the experience, the knowledge, the relationships built and in place to actually move this county government forward from day one. There's not much of a learning curve there with myself. I really believe either way, this community and this county is going to be well represented, whether it's myself or Mr. Chiarelli. I believe that we are both basically with the same goal. We want to see this place become the best that it possibly can. We have so much that is going for us, but we also have a few negatives that always exist that seems to be a detriment. Our crime is soaring here in the city of Rockford. We have relationships that are actually busted between the community and law enforcement. We need criminal justice reforms. We need those now. I will work with the state's attorney's office, our public defender, and our courts to actually come up with real reforms that actually help people. Just to police our way out of something and arrest our way out of problems is not the way. Just like spending on frivolous things at the county is not our way. We need to make sure that we have a strategic plan. I will work with the board, and plus I will work with community leaders business owners around the county to actually come up with strategies when we look at reopening after COVID. And hopefully that is sooner than later, but we need a strategy, especially into the future here. What are we going to do? So I will look forward to actually putting the voice back into the people's hands, bringing the people to the table, forming a community action board. So plus other things. Thanks, Joy.
Thank you. Mr. Chiarelli, your 2 minutes for closing comments, please.
Yeah, thank you. I thank the League of Women Voters. I also want to thank Burt. It's been a great campaign so far. We are really on the same page here. We both want the same thing. We want our community to move forward. You know, public service is about service. This is about serving the people and not serving our self-interest, and really laying down the line. What is it we want in our community? I truly believe I bring the leadership, the vision, and the direction to go forward with our community and a greater impact for all our citizens. We have the best opportunity right now to move our community forward with great relationships, great connectivity, and great honesty, our core values. Let's get back to the civility, to understand who we really are in this community. And that's what I want to bring to the table. My work on the city council, I believe I've done a great job having a great impact on my citizens that I represent and the city as a whole. And I want to bring those relationships to the county and the county board. We have so much potential in this community. It's unbelievable. We have a great future for our children and a great future for everybody here. We just need to put our heads together and work together on common priorities and common objectives, restore our community's faith in government, and rebuild this community and the capacity that we truly do have. I look forward to serving in the future, and I look forward to working with everybody in the future. So it's going to be a very open, transitional campaign when we win, and hopefully, God willing, we get there and work with Mr. Gerl and all the great board members and all the great citizens in this community. Again, I apologize, I didn't say it earlier, but I'm suffering with a lot of allergies right now, so hopefully I'm coming off clearly, but these medicines do have an impact on how I'm talking right now. So hopefully we get there, and I look forward to working with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We want to thank both of you today for your participation in this forum, and certainly appreciate your comments today. The forum was brought to you by the League of Women Voters from Greater Rockford. Please exercise your right to vote on or before November 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good day.
Thanks, Burt.
Yep. See you, Joy.